Welcome back to Table Talk and Tumbleweeds. We're here for the 6th week of Lent, Palm Sunday, Passion Sunday, continuing our journey through the Lord of the Rings together, talking about fellowship, talking about other things, but especially this week talking about hope. And when we left last time, we were at the Battle of Pelennor Fields, the Siege of Gondor, and everything was in total despair right up until you heard the horns of Rohan. They're on their way.
The horns of Rohan. And so we will leave us on the bridge of despair and touch perhaps briefly, with my nod to Eowyn here, who is unopened, remains unopened, and I just wanted to let Rachel know because Rachel did the presentation last night, and so she gets the Eowyn figurine.
And that's what we're really going to talk more about is Rohan itself and their way in.
Yes.
We'll come back to the actual siege in a little bit.
Yes. So we're talking about Eowyn and Mary, who have stowed away in the during the muster of Rohans. They were told not to come. Explicitly told not to come. You're a woman. Your place is in the home. You're too small. Speaking to Mary, you're too small. You have to stay here. You can't make this ride. Was explicitly freed from his vow. Yes.
So that he didn't have to make the ride.
Didn't have to make the ride, and then was told basically don't make the ride. You'll just hold this back. And so what happens in the book, and I'm going to focus on the book because I don't think that the movie just botches this totally. So both of them have come along in defiance. Eowyn has disguised herself as Durnhelm.
Yes.
And Mary, in the midst of his, being bummed about not coming along, a rider comes up, Durnhelm, and says, "Get on the horse." Right? Because
with that exact voice.
With that, get on the horse. And so it's a little bit like Clark Kent, Superman, that he has no idea that it's actually Eowyn until the big reveal, which comes later.
Yeah.
But basically, these are two characters that were considered to be too small and too weak to come along, too small and too weak to matter. You stay here, let the big guys go out and do what we do.
Yeah, and there's some strangeness to that in some ways because, as it says over and over, Eowyn is a shield maiden. This is not going to be a first battle.
Right.
And we also know that Mary, with the Ents, with everything else, he had a sword. He went and fought. He did all these sorts of stuff. It will not be his first battle either.
Yes.
The question is, will you be good enough?
Yes.
And the answer is no.
We don't think so.
We don't think so.
Right, and we'll just be worried about you the whole time. And you've
some dismissive.
You fought the orcs, but this is enough. I mean, there is a little paternalistic attitude. And the sort of interesting thing is, I'm going to focus on Eowyn for a little because her interestingly enough, I really think that Tolkien really explores some of her mindset a little bit more. And there's this this relatively well-known scene where she's talking to Aragorn, right? And
so this is sometime before, but
this is sometime before. It's right before he's heading south to the dead. So it's in the previous chapter or whatever. She says, don't go, and he says, this is my path, and and you get this sort of sense that she's kind of, she's in love with Aragorn. It's not the pining sort of pathetic thing that sort of happens in the book. Interestingly enough, Tolkien originally thought that those two would get married. That was in his original plan. And then Eowyn showed up, and she was like, I don't think so. She's like, I'm not leaving. I'm not dead yet.
Have not headed to the west yet.
So those two, and he's like, your place is here, and she's been told you need to stay here and basically make sure that the men have a place to come home to when the battle is over. And if we don't have a place, then it's
going to burn down.
Yeah. So. And she said, shall I always be left behind when the riders depart to mind the house while they win Renine and find food and beds when they return? All your words are but to say to me, you are a woman and your part is in the house. But when the men have died in battle and honor, you have leave to burn and to be burned in the house, for the men will need it no more. But I am the house of Earl, and not a serving woman. I can ride and wield a blade, and I do not fear either pain or death. And then he says, and this is the big line, what do you fear, lady? A cage, she said, to stay behind bars until use and old age accept them, and all chance of doing great deeds is gone beyond recall and desire. Yeah. And so there's this, what I find really interesting in this passage is how Tolkien, this is about the same time that Betty Friedan is writing The Feminine Mystique, right? Yeah. In which she talks about, the problem with no name. And the problem with no name is women being told you stay home and take care of the home, and then men are going to go to work. And women are supposed to be happy with that. And there was this this was the 50s, right? And there was this And I think, and there are some women that find plenty of fulfillment staying home, and God bless them, they should.
Fantastic.
There are probably men who would find fulfillment in staying home
Absolutely.
and taking care of the children. God bless them, they should.
Absolutely.
But the problem, and I think that this, again, Tolkien really puts this together, is it's kind of interesting to me just how starkly he paints that.
Absolutely.
I remember a friend of mine going, I'm just desperate to talk with someone who's over 5. So you have this whole generation of women who wants something more from life, and they're told this should be enough.
This is the way you're supposed to be.
Yeah,
this is what
it
you're
should
supposed
be
to
enough.
love.
And if it's not enough, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And this is really what Eowyn is embodying in this moment.
Absolutely.
I want an opportunity for greatness as well. This is not enough for me, right? A lot of people think, oh, it's it's the culture wars or the battle and everything. And I think what Betty Friedan said, and other feminists since that time have pointed out, it's like the cage is not just for us, because Mary's in the same cage, right?
Exactly so.
Gender expectations for Mary's like, well, you're not man enough, right?
You're not
literally,
enough.
you're
half a person.
you're not, you don't fit the male ideal, right? And
You build this rectangle, and if you fit in it, then you get to be a man.
and if not, you have to stay in women's
Yeah.
domain, right? And this is, he's not happy about that, because almost exact the same words that she uses in this speech. I have to stay here while you guys are going off. I want to go help Pippin. I want to do this. No, this should be enough for you. I wish it was. I wish it wasn't. If it's not, something's wrong with you. So.
And again, the fault is placed on the person who wants more.
Yes. So
it's not our system is flawed. It's you're flawed for not fitting into the system.
So we're creating this box. Yep. And everyone that doesn't fit out, and we're going to shove everyone into the box, and then we have free reign out here, but you don't really have free reign.
It's just a different box.
It's just a different box. And I think this
different cage.
Yeah, and I it's not that I think that, nobody should stay home. Women that want to stay home should stay home. Women that want to do other things should be able to do it. And men that want to stay home should not be treated as though they're less than for wanting to stay home.
Exactly.
And hobbits and short guys should be able to go to war. If that's what they want.
If that's what they want.
Anyway, so you have this sense of Eowyn in her quiet despair. And later, really she uses some languages later when she's talking with Faramir, where she basically says, I had a death wish. There was no place for me here, and if I couldn't do it, then I didn't really care if I died. So all of these other men are sort of driving, and they're singing these songs, and very kind of explicitly in the text, you have Mary, who doesn't know Durnhelm,
nope.
Mary talks about how he feels lonely and excluded. So this is, the fellowship is happening here, and they're excluded from the fellowship because they are hiding who they are.
And somehow that allows them to build their own little fellowship.
Their own little fellowship, even though they're, she knows who he is, but he doesn't know who she is. So they have this, So I think it's that fellowship, that team that brings them together, which is actually what enables them to defeat the Witch King.
Yes.
And I have the scene, but I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's long. But basically, and the movie does a pretty good job of it. Although the part I don't like about the movie is she's always like knock-kneed and scared the whole time. Accidentally, she's not. I mean, she's badass. And look at this woman. I don't know why she's in a skirt, but look at this. She's a shield maiden. She's tough. And she's doing it backwards and in heels. They refer to him again as he arrives, and he is turning hope into despair. Exactly. And he comes up, and she walks up to him. I don't have the right quote, but she's so. Theoden has fallen in battle.
Right.
The Witch King is walking to kill him. Theoden is stuck underneath his horse.
Yes.
And he's probably dying anyway. You get the sense. And and that's when Eowyn Durnhelm steps up in front of him and says no.
With that death wish. There's no possible way that this is going to end any other way but him killing her.
But she says, you will leave him alone. She's trying to buy him time or whatever, get him out from underneath. Mary's on the ground and everything, and he sort of laughs, his Witch King laugh, and says, do not get between Nazgul and his prey, which is a lovely line. And then she threatens him, and he says, don't you know that I will die by the hand of no man?
Yeah.
And she says, hee. She says, that's when she, in the movie, she
rips off the helmet.
Blonde hair, blonde tresses flow down, and she says, but I am no man. Which is different.
A little slightly different book.
But it's a better line in the movie. I will give the movie that. I am no man. And then Nazgul hesitates for a moment, but then, starts going after her, and is just about to deal the death blow, knocks her down, is about to deal a death blow, when Merry comes up with his little sword, which, spoiler alert, was designed for just this task, and then stabs him in the foot.
Yeah, very Achilles tendon sort of thing.
Stabs him in the foot, which, because of what the sword is, ends his magic.
Turns him back into something which can be killed.
And that's when
she thrusts the sword into the face.
Everything falls apart.
Yep.
So the the one blow, Mary's blow alone might not have killed him. He might have been able to reassemble the magic. Her blow, without that first blow, would have been, so it's definitely teamwork.
It is, both of them had to be involved in this, and both of them had to be that fellowship working to defeat despair.
Yes.
Despite the fact that both of them had been wallowing
Excluded.
in it.
Yes.
The entire horse ride down, they were wallowing in their despair. Everyone hates us. No one thinks we're worth of anything.
They're all singing and we don't get to sing.
Because we don't know the songs.
So there's this, I'm not going to go too much into it because we don't have a lot of time, but what's interesting in this is that, of course, Tolkien, who knew all of these, these stories, he is intentionally inverting the Beowulf narrative, the Eowyn and the Green Knight, all of these things where the hero, Theoden should have been the one to kill him. Aragorn, perhaps. Éomer, or Gandalf, of course, should have been the one. Gandalf in the standoff should have killed him then. But that is not when it happens, right? It happens, and this is, again, the Tolkien thing. It's the little guy you don't expect that's going to do that. And in fact, the courage of the team, not just the person, the team that's considered insignificant.
Yes.
And you and I were talking about this a little bit before, because, there's a lot of talk about, shared marginalization, right? And I think that it can go a lot of ways. People that feel discriminated against can either, glom onto as much power as they can get for themselves.
And try to re-marginalize
anyone else. I don't want to be associated with people like me because I don't want people to know that I'm like them.
Right.
Or sometimes you get into sort of like, identity politics, right? Where I want to get my liberation often at the expense of your liberation.
If I need to climb up using you as a ladder, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But that's not what happens here.
Yes, and there's a really good essay by Bell Hooks, and Bell Hooks where she talks about solidarity among women. And really she's talking about kind of, the kind of solidarity that says, my issues, we'll get to your stuff later, right? And she says that the problem with identity politics is that all you're doing is you're thinking about how sad I am, right? And you're thinking about how things are unjust for me. And she says solidarity doesn't look like that. Solidarity is we're going to work together to get rid of injustice, period, right? Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Right.
That wasn't her, that was another guy. And what she needs by solidarity in this point is that solidarity is not you come here and help me. It's when we work together for this common enemy, and the common enemy in this case, it was the Nazgul, but it's injustice, right? So we're working to end the injustice to me. We're working together to end injustice for everyone. And so if it's happening to those people over there, we're going to work on that too, right?
Yes.
And that's what solidarity looks like. And I think that this is the part that's interesting about what's happening here, because you have these two people who, again, and I will use a technical term, structural marginalization, right? She is excluded for a reason different than the one he's excluded.
But they're both excluded.
She takes him along, and because of that,
and if she hadn't taken him along, what would have happened?
Well, we'd all be speaking German right now. No, wait.
Different war.
Yeah. So
that solidarity she showed in that moment, saying, "Come with me. I know no one wants you. No one wants me. We will hang out together." That's what changed the entire narrative.
Yeah, and I think it changes and that's what enables them to defeat the Nazgul. It doesn't end the battle, but it sort of is one of the turning points, at least in the book. Yeah. They're both injured and they end up in the houses of healing, and I think there's more to say about Eowyn. We're not quite done with Eowyn, but I think
houses of healing may have to wait.
Houses of healing, because I think we're going to talk about that next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is this solidarity of a fellowship of the marginalized, right? And fellowship, as we've talked about before, fellowship isn't because we're all the same. It was never because we were all the same. Fellowship is because we have a common goal. We
are all different, and we have that goal, and that's what matters, not that we're the same.
Yes, and so that's why it makes sense to talk about the fellowship of the marginalized in this, because even though they're different, I think in Bell Hook's sense, they're both working for the same goal. Yeah. So the only other thing, one more thing to cover on the Siege of Gondor, and that will be the Palantiri. Two of them.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, it's the plural form of Palantir.
If you say it is, it is.
Apparently, your High Elvish is whatever. I don't know. Anyway,
my Quenya is rusty.
Anyway, so we have one more thing to talk about before we kind of end this discussion of the Siege of Gondor, and that's the Palantir, the two of them, and we will talk about that in the next video, which is coming up next.